Good morning. You're listening to Insurance Matchmaking, the show centered around health and life insurance issues, especially Medicare coverage. This is Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby Insurance.
Well, good morning and welcome back to Insurance Matchmaking. Guess what? You don't have to listen to just me again today. I have a guest today. I have Bruce Adams with Barrier Waterproofing. He's another one of those folks that I have lunch with every Thursday in my B&I group. So I thought I just offered out to them. I like to have a guest. Sometimes they'll have the questions that I realize you're not wanting, or I'm not answering because I don't realize that's the question you want answered. And then we'll get to also know something about his business also. So Bruce, say hello.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Adams, as Matt said, with Barrier Waterproofing Systems, and looking forward to a good conversation.
So people probably want to know, well, what's that got to do with the insurance? And it may not have a lot to do. Hopefully, he's got some good insurance questions about what I do, or maybe he's heard people ask and can help me get those answers out there. I'm actually going to kind of start off with something that we're talking insurance and we're talking about waterproofing, but Bruce's claim to fame in our B&I group is he does these strongman competitions. So do you currently hold the title on the strongest man over 45 or whatever that is?
Strongest man over 40 in Tennessee, yes.
So things he does for fun is like carry cars and things like that. So roll up frying pans. I don't know if I guess it's just on your personal Facebook page. Yeah. But actually, one of the questions I thought of for you, hopefully I don't stump you too bad here, but because I know you've heard you talk about jobs that you've come in behind and had to fix. What is your pet peeve of seeing somebody else doing what they're claiming is waterproofing and they're not?
Well, kind of along that line, and just in our work, the biggest pet peeve is really to do more with vapor barriers and encapsulations than exterior waterproofings. The biggest issue I see is people putting a barrier over a water problem. So what'll happen is the crawl space will have water intrusion, and for example, we always want to address that water as the number one priority, and then get a vapor barrier or encapsulation over it. Well, to come in at a lower bid, some companies will just bid a barrier and hope they can just cover the problem and just hide it. In best case scenario, they hide it, but it's still causing damage to your home over time. Worst case scenario is that water will actually bust a seam in that barrier, and that barrier makes a great pool liner, and you now end up with a pool under your home that the only way it can get out is to evaporate. So you have high humidity in the space, and it can cause a lot more damage than it helps.
And depending on what electrical wiring they might have under there, that pool could be another hazard.
That's why, I don't crawl through standing water, because you just never know what kind of wires might be hanging into it.
Now, I understand, and without being too negative, that there are companies out there that have another specialty, but they'll claim they can also do the encapsulation, because I guess there's not a lot of regulation on who can do crawl space encapsulation.
Nah, not really. You could be doing it tomorrow if you wanted to. Now, you would have just your general contractor requirements for doing projects of certain dollar amounts, that kind of thing, but there's not a specific waterproofing license that you would be required to have. And so a lot of companies, particularly like pest controls, HVACs, anybody who's in a crawl space is trying to get extra money since they're already in that space. And so a lot of them have gone into doing barriers and encapsulations, but they don't have the expertise to do them properly. So that's a common issue.
Now, how big an geographic area do you cover to help people with their waterproofing and encapsulation projects?
Generally speaking, we cover from, we're here in Cookeville, so we cover east out past Crossville. We'll go west all the way out the other side of Nashville to the Dixon area.
Okay.
North, we sometimes stray into Kentucky. We don't really try to get up into it, but we go north as far as Kentucky, and south of Nashville all the way to the Alabama border.
Okay.
Having said that, we have had clients who've used us in the past that have relocated other places in Tennessee and have paid to have us come work at their new location, even though they're having to pay to put people up in hotels and everything just because they want our services.
Right. So is that kind of a justification on going up into Kentucky, that it's got to be a big enough job to make it worthwhile, or is it just kind of will it fit in your schedule to go out of the way?
Well, luckily our crews are actually they live all over our area. So our crews are not all based out of one specific city. So like there's a crew that lives here in Cookeville. There's crews kind of around the Nashville area, and one of our crews actually lives right on the Kentucky border north of Nashville. So they're the ones who would hit any Kentucky jobs.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So what burning insurance questions do you have for me, Bruce?
Well, actually, the first one, and hopefully it's an appropriate question because it's something I kind of view insurance almost like gambling. So I wonder how you approach this if this question comes up to you. Because in my mind, in insurance, the insurance company's betting that they're not going to have to pay out more than they're taking in, and you're betting that they're going to have to pay out the opposite. So you're basically placing the bet that for life insurance, for example, that you would die before you would accumulate enough. So with that mind, how do you combat somebody with that mindset? Because I know there's a variety of reasons why they should still get insurance, but if somebody comes to you and that's kind of their holdup, how would you?
Right. And a lot of times, and that's actually very close to being true, is it is kind of a gamble, and that is what they're predicting. That's what they call the actuaries. They'll go and they'll look, and that's why if you're younger or you're in better shape or you don't go skydiving every weekend, that you can have a lower rate because it is that risk. And the thing is with insurance, and you're just like with car insurance, home insurance, health insurance, life insurance, they're all based on risk avoidance. You're transferring that risk to that insurance company. So I know a lot of times, and I think it comes out more with life insurance because people think, well, my life is worth this much. I'm going to get this much insurance. And if I die, and guys, I think about this more than women do, but I die, my wife just hit the lottery. You've probably heard, I haven't heard the phrase as much now, but you used to hear a lot. I'm worth more dead than I am alive. And so technically that's not true because what we look at with life insurance is what is your earning potential for the next 10, 20, 30 years, depending on how long you're doing that policy for. And so we're looking for something that's going to replace your income to protect your family. That's kind of the general thing when it comes to the life insurance. The other thing is life insurance has changed a lot in the last few years. A lot of them now have what we call living benefits or accelerated death benefit, and they will pay out some in case you get, like a chronic illness or you get cancer, and they give you 3 years to live, and you can cash in on that life insurance policy early. And what's great, what I love how they do on this really is good for people because they'll think, I mentioned the lottery. I don't know exact stats, but the people that win the lottery within a couple of years, they're bankrupt because they were broke to begin with. They wasted their money on. Most people waste their money on the lottery. A few hit, and then they don't know what to do with the money when they get it. And that can kind of happen also with life insurance. But one of the things with these accelerated death benefits or living benefits plans is they will advance on that death benefit, but not 100%. So there's still some money left over that will take care of those burial expenses and things like that. So, and there's other aspects that you can do with life insurance. You can use it kind of as a financial vehicle you can take out a loan against a life insurance policy if you have a cash value policy. And that's one of the things we've talked about, and I've described in other shows, and maybe you're a new listener, so you haven't heard me say it, so it's new to you. But, we have term life and we have whole life. And the term life, that's really the one on the betting. Because if it's whole life, the insurance company knows they're going to pay out. And that's why one of the reasons why it's a little bit more. But they give you that incentive of that money's going to build some cash value so you feel like I'm not just throwing the money away. Where the opposite with a term life is you're betting that you're going to live, and you're hoping not to collect on it, or you're hoping your spouse isn't going to collect on a life insurance policy, but the insurance company's betting on, hey, we can afford to give you this amount of insurance for 10 years because the probability of you cashing in on it is very low. In fact, actually, the cashing in on term life insurance, believe it or not, is in the single digits of that there's actually claims paid out. People, one, it's term plan, so you have that opportunity to outlive it. And then the other thing is people will cancel plans. They're paid into it, change their bank account, moved, forgot to reset up the auto payment or something like that, and they cancel out it or go, hey, I've had this insurance for 2 years and I haven't used it yet. I'm not going to pay for this anymore. And they'll cancel the policy. So there's a lot of different reasons. The policies don't go to full term, so there was no claim issued on that policy. So that's some of the things of, you are kind of betting. It is kind of a roll of the dice.
Right. So with the whole life, is that what because one thing that I would look at with insurance is, okay, what's the benefit to me doing the life insurance versus me taking the money I would have been putting into that premium and investing it?
Well, one is risk. There's a lot less risk.
Volatility.
You got that volatility. The other thing is I get that a lot, especially I do what's called the final expense life insurance, which those are a whole life policy again. So they're going to be a little more expensive because the insurance company's figuring they're going to pay out at some time. But it's how many years are you going to pay on that they're doing something with your money and they're investing it somewhere before they actually have to pay out. So those will gain a little bit more. And the thing I run into the question people, well, why don't I just put the money in the bank? And it's like, well, you can pay $100 or $50 right now for a $10,000 life insurance plan. Do you have $10,000 to put in the bank right now? If you're putting it in the bank at $50 a month, how long is it going to take you to have $10,000 to be used for your funeral versus you pay $50 for 2 years and you spent $1,200, but now your family has $10,000 to spend on your funeral arrangements? You weren't going to save it that fast. The other thing I've run into, people will always say, well, I could just pay the money I'll just put it in the bank. And the other one, there's a company out there that loves to say, and actually our buddy Dave here in Nashville likes to say, buy term and invest the rest, but most people don't. So they may buy the term, which is good. Now, I have nothing against term insurance, but if you tell them to buy term just because they're wasting their money on a permanent plan, thing is, people will pay their life insurance. They might skip paying, they may skip on their car insurance and hope they catch up on it, or they'll hold off on their cell phone bill until they know that their phone's going to get cut off. But a lot of people are like, hey, I've got that life insurance and I'm not going to be able to replace it if it lapses. I've got to make sure that's paid. So you have that. It's kind of a forced savings account in that regard. It's kind of the way I look at it. But it's generally, I sell somebody a life insurance policy. I'm pretty self-assured that's a policy that'll stand on it. And of course, they don't all. Some people cancel every so off. They think they can afford it until they've paid the premium a couple times and go, I really can't afford this, and they'll just let it lapse. But typically, if somebody's in the market for life insurance, they want to make sure that policy doesn't lapse. So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they have issues with their water under their basement or something like that?
Well, there's a variety of ways they can do it. Obviously, they could just, Google the company, and we have an option for them to sign up for a free estimate right on our website. They can always contact me directly at 931-303-3033 or at my email at badams@teambarrier.com. Like I said, we can set up an appointment to come out and look at the home.
All right. Well, we're coming up on our commercial break here, and then as soon as we come back from that, we'll hit Bruce up with some more questions, or he'll hit me up with some more questions.
Are you a problem solver who thrives on keeping things running smoothly? Look no further. Twin Lakes is seeking a skilled facilities technician to join their team. You'll ensure their facilities are in top-notch condition. From maintaining buildings and grounds to installing and repairing plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and more, you'll play a pivotal role in their operational success. Plus, enjoy excellent retirement and health benefits that come with being a part of the Twin Lakes team. Ready to make a difference? Learn more at twinlakes.net/careers today.
Get a great deal on select Kubota equipment, the #1 rated tractor brand for durability and owner experience in the U.S. The versatile lineup is built to help you make the most of your land. Right now at participating dealers, get a Kubota compact tractor for 0 down, 0% APR for 84 months, plus save up to $800 on qualifying implements. Now through September 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com/disclaimers for full disclaimer.
See Sam, Tim, or Alan Brown at Hicks Brothers Tractor Service on South Jefferson Avenue in Cookeville. We're your locally owned Kubota dealer.
And now, back to Insurance Matchmaking, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance, hosted by Matt Libby.
Well, we're back to Insurance Matchmaking. Again, my guest, Bruce Adams with Barrier Waterproofing. And one of the things he and I kind of discussed on the break, and I realized, I asked him earlier about his pet peeves. And the exterior waterproofing, when he talks about, he's used the phrase, in Tennessee, that's slapping a coat of tar or something on the block, which isn't really waterproofing. So I'll let him explain a little bit more what his pet peeves are about and what his concerns are about the exterior waterproofing.
Yeah, so as Matt just alluded to, tar is actually acceptable in Tennessee. It is not in many other states because tar is damp proofing. It is not waterproofing. And even for the damp proofing, there's a minimum thickness that's required, which takes multiple coats of tar. Unfortunately, the general practice here is for whoever is sealing the foundation with tar to be told just make it black. And so that spray 1 or 2 coats on, and so it's nowhere near the required thickness. However, it does get a builder through their 1-year builder warranty period, which is the primary concern they may have. And that's not all builders, obviously. But the other issue with that is tar breaks down in acidic environments. And in Tennessee, we have acidic soils and acidic rain. So as soon as that tar starts getting exposed to those acids, it's starting to break down. So we seal a number of homes every year that are 3 to 5 years old. So it's not uncommon at all for us to be digging up a basically brand new home to properly seal it. And to do it after the fact is pretty expensive. To do it right up front when the home's being built, it's not that much more than getting it sprayed with tar.
Yeah.
So if you do it right from the get-go, you save yourself a lot of heartache in the future. And we actually have multiple builders who have been burned by using tar who now use us to seal their new construction because it's not worth the lawsuits and the hassle for them to deal with the homes that they have that are leaking.
I know a lot of times you'll mention sometimes in B&I, you've got a lot of big projects on the schedule, and somebody's got a big project. It's going to be months before you can get them on their schedule, you say. But we'd like some simple jobs. I know because you'll do things like French drains or a small retaining wall and things like that also, right?
Oh, yeah. We do pretty much everything water-related as far as it related to the home. So we do interior things like interior drainage systems, which is considered water management, not waterproofing, but we do interior drainage systems, sump pumps. We do on the exterior French drains, trench drains, dry creek beds, pretty much anything you can think of that's a feature to divert or eliminate water from your structure. We do that. But yeah, we do things as small as just installing a single sump pump, if that's what somebody really wants to have done. And then we go all the way up to projects that are hundreds of thousands of dollars. It just so the full gamut.
Other than standing water in the basement or the crawl space, what are some things a homeowner should look for that maybe they should be giving you a call to take a look at?
So one thing is if you have the ability to see your foundation blocks from the interior, so in a basement where in an unfinished space, that kind of thing, look for what's called efflorescence. As water comes through the block, it already has minerals in it, but as it's coming through the block, it's dissolving out binding agents from the block. And when that water gets to the interior surface and dries, it leaves behind a powdery substance. Usually it's white. Sometimes it can have a coloration to it, though, depending on what minerals have been dissolved in it. So that buildup, a lot of people will think it's fungal growth or something. It's not. It's just mineral deposits, but that's a sign you have water coming through. Another good one is cupping of wood floors. So if you see when you're standing in your living room or looking across your floors and you see the edges of all the boards look like they're raised just a little bit, that's from humidity levels being too high often in the crawl space or the basement, and it's causing those boards to swell, resulting in that cupping.
Now I noticed, and again, being around you guys that are in those fields, I noticed you said fungal growth, not mold. I know that, and you've also been a home inspector in the past, I believe, and in one of those things, they can't say mold, but you can say fungal growth appears or something like that. Is that kind of, do you do it more as a generality or because it's like, hey, you got to be shy away from saying the M word?
So the reason that I try to always use fungal growth as the terminology is all molds are a type of fungus. So fungal growth covers molds and it covers any other type of fungus. But if you say mold, then you're narrowing it down to that particular type of fungus when you really don't know. Because not all of them look the same. You can't necessarily just look at it and know what type of fungus it is. So the only way to really know for sure is to get it tested. And if I tell somebody there's mold in their crawl space or their basement, mold's a scary word for people, and it can cause them to do things that they maybe shouldn't do, and then subsequently they may come back to me after they find out it wasn't mold, it was some other kind of fungus. So the safest thing to do is say it's fungal growth, because you are correct whether it's mold or not mold, that it is a type of fungal growth.
Right. So I just realized when you said that, just like I said, being around people do what you do, or people that do the mold remediation, the home inspectors, it's kind of like we won't use the term mold until we actually are testing for that. Which actually made me think of something else. We talked about life insurance. I also offer cancer plans, and again, it's one of those, hey, you're gambling that, again, I hope you never have to use it, but if you get cancer, it can come in very handy, helps cover a lot of the expenses that aren't covered by health insurance. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I don't smoke and I eat well and I exercise, so why should I worry about cancer? And take it away, Bruce.
Well, one of the main reasons to worry about cancer in this particular area of Cookeville is we're rated as a moderate to high risk area for radon, and radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer, so second only to smoking. And radon levels in the Cookeville area can get quite high. Used to be a home inspector and tested multiple homes. We had homes in the 33 picocuries per liter range, which may mean nothing to your listeners, but the EPA says if it's over 4 picocuries per liter, you need remediation. So obviously 33, quite a bit more than 4. And there's whole areas of Cookeville where every home I tested was high in radon. And even some of them that I found out later, prior residents had died of lung cancer. Doesn't mean that it was from the radon. It's just,
and then they could have been a smoker, and that didn't help.
Correct. But that is a particular issue. And then there's also issues with the fungal growth, particularly if they're an allergen. And they can also release mycotoxins. So they can have detrimental effects on your body as well. So either of those things is not conducive to your health.
Right. All right. And you said you had maybe some other questions for me.
Well, I do. Despite my gray beard, I may not be old enough for it. But at some point, I would assume I'm going to be Medicare eligible, and I'm really not sure what kind of age range that is.
Okay.
Is that in the 50s, in the 60s? Is it where's that coming?
Well, it's actually in the 60s. It's currently, I mean, things could change, but currently anyone turning 65 is eligible for Medicare. There are some requirements, like with citizenship or legal status and working and paying into the system, just like drawing Social Security. You have to have what's called 40 quarters, which is equivalent of 10 years of where you've paid into the system. So like I said, currently most people get Medicare when they turn 65. Now, some people do get it younger. Those exceptions are generally health related. If you're on permanent disability and have been on it for 24 months and you're drawing benefits from Social Security disability, that 25th month you will be on Medicare regardless if you're over 65 or not. And then also organ transplants, like kidney transplants, if you go to what we call end-stage renal disease, where you're now having to go and get the dialysis 3 days a week, you qualify for Medicare. And children qualify for it. So certain disabilities will put people on Medicare at a younger age, but age-wise, it starts at 65. Confuses a lot of people to think, well, because you can get Social Security at 62. So a lot of them think, oh, I'm getting my Social Security now, I can go on Medicare. And that's not the case.
Now, is that so? When you turn 65, is it something that you have to actively go seek to be signed up for, or is it something you get kind of auto signed into when you're 65?
It goes both ways. If you are already on some form of Social Security benefits, then it'll happen automatically. So if you're on the disability, like I said, Medicare starts 25 months, the 25th month after you're on disability, or if you turn 65, whichever happens first. Some people will draw spousal benefits, and if they're drawing on a deceased spouse, they're in the system, and when they turn 65, it'll be automatic. But if you're not drawing Social Security, you do have to go and apply. You can go online and do it. You can call Social Security. It's kind of funny. People think, well, I got to call Medicare. Well, no, actually, to sign up for Medicare, you have to call Social Security if you can do that. Or you can call me and I can help you with it too. But there's a couple different ways you can do it. Most of the time, Social Security wants you to sign into your My Social Security account and do the application there. Because even if you go to socialsecurity.gov and start the application, once you click the thing that you're going to start it, then it'll say sign into your account. So, but there are ways also that you can still do the online application, but you got to go through some extra steps then to be able to get it submitted. So you don't have to be a master of the web to get it done online. That is the quickest way to do it, though, because if you call Social Security, they're going to make you set up an appointment for someone to call you back, 2 to 3 weeks later, and you're still going to wait. And even if you do it online, you're still going to wait a couple weeks before you get your number. And I haven't figured that out. I would think they should already have your number kind of assigned to you because they know you're turning 65. And once you actually do the application, you think they say, okay, you're done. And it used to be simpler. It used to be your Medicare number was your Social Security number, and for identity theft reasons, they changed that so that it's now a alphanumeric number that is kind of randomly assigned. Certain spaces in the number in that what's called your MBI, your Medicare beneficiary indicator or identifier. I'm not sure what the I stands for, but in certain spots it will only ever be a letter, and another spot it will only ever be a number, and in some spots it can be a letter or a number. And then if it's in that one of those spots, they won't use O. If it's going to be 0, S, and 5, certain spots won't be. But you can have those. You can have 5s and S's, but certain spaces. So that, I haven't really memorized that to go back and say, oh, that's got to be a 5 because it's in that space. The one rule I can use does help me out sometimes because you're trying to figure, well, was that a 1 or an L? Is it never repeats more than 2. So if you have 2 numbers, the next one is going to be a letter. If you have 2 letters, the next space is going to be a number. So that kind of helps you. If you've got 70S, okay, that's an S, not a 5, because you already got a 7 and a 0. So those numbers help. Hopefully, will cut down on some identity theft, but there's still fraud out there calling seniors and getting them to give their number. One of the things I had a client call me last week, and I have to reiterate: Medicare doesn't call you. Your phone may be ringing. They say they're Medicare. And Medicare keeps calling me 3 times a day. It's not Medicare. It's a scammer. If they say they're Medicare, they're scammer. Other agents like myself, we do get lists. We do sometimes call people to see if we can, were you indeed looking for help with your Medicare? I can help you with that. And unfortunately, again, if your name got on that list because you did something online and didn't realize you checked a box saying you wanted insurance information, or maybe you did, unfortunately, the groups that collect that information sell that information, so you could be legitimate agents, but you could have hundreds of them calling you. And just because the number is local doesn't mean that it is a local call.
Mm-hmm. Spoofing numbers, that kind of thing.
Right.
Now, so what's the difference between, isn't there Medicare A and Medicare B?
Yes, those are 2 parts. And it looks like we're kind of running out of time, so I'll try to cover it quickly. That's what we call original Medicare, A and B. A covers your hospitalization. B is all your other health care, doctor's visits, lab work, all those things. That all falls under Part B. Part B is the part you do have to pay some for, and that's not enough. So that's for maybe another session, or actually I do what's called Medicare 101 briefings for those that are turning 65. So I do those at Cookeville Library. As we're recording this will be you won't hear this till later, but I will be doing it at the Cumberland Business Incubator near the Roan State campus in Crossville. So those are a couple of places I've done. So I want to again thank Bruce for coming in, and it's Barrier Waterproofing or B. Adams at teambarrier.com. There are ways to get quick ways to get a hold of him. And as always, you can go to insurancematchmaking.com, and there's a block there to ask questions, or hey, what was that guy's name you said was on the radio with you about the waterproofing, and I can get you in contact with Bruce also. So again, thanks Bruce for coming today, and we'll talk to you folks next week.
Thanks for tuning in to Insurance Matchmaking, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance.